Jake Martinez couldn't believe how badly his life had gotten complicated. 6 months ago, everything was simple. He was just a regular guy who studied alien biology at the Earth Centauri Cultural Exchange Station. Now he was sitting in his small quarters, staring at a positive pregnancy test, wondering how he was going to explain this to everyone. The whole mess started with what seemed like a simple work assignment. The Zephyrian delegation had arrived at the station, and Jake was supposed to help them understand human culture while learning about theirs. These aliens were fascinating creatures. They looked almost human, except for the soft blue glow that ran along their skin in beautiful patterns. They could also read minds, which made Jake nervous at first. When Jake first walked into the meeting room, he saw two identical Zephyrian women waiting for him. Their supervisor quickly introduced him to his assigned partner and rushed off to handle other business. The problem was, Jake didn't catch which sister was which. They looked exactly the same to his human eyes. The only difference was tiny variations in their glowing patterns. But Jake couldn't tell them apart yet. The sister he ended up working with was quiet and thoughtful. She loved learning about Earth science and spent hours asking Jake questions about human biology. Her name was Kira, and she had this way of tilting her head when she was thinking that Jake found adorable. She was supposed to be observing human behavior for her research, but Jake noticed she seemed more interested in observing him specifically. Days turned into weeks, and Jake found himself looking forward to their work sessions. Kira was brilliant, funny, and had this innocent curiosity about everything human. She would ask him about simple things like why humans ate hot food, or why they kept pictures of their families. Her questions made Jake see his own world through fresh eyes. The cultural exchange program was supposed to be strictly professional, but Jake couldn't help developing feelings for Kira. She seemed to feel the same way. When she accidentally brushed his hand while reaching for a datapad, her skin glowed brighter for just a moment. Jake learned this was how Zephyrians showed strong emotions. One evening, while working late in the lab, Kira suddenly looked up from her research and stared directly at Jake. "You feel different," she said softly. "Your thoughts are warm when you look at me." Jake's face turned red. He forgot that she could sense his emotions through her telepathic abilities. "I'm sorry," he stammered. "I know this is supposed to be professional." But Kira moved closer to him. "Don't be sorry. I feel the same warmth when I think about you." That night changed everything. They talked for hours about their feelings, about the challenges of caring for someone from a completely different species, and about what it might mean for both their careers. Despite all the complications, they couldn't deny their connection. Their relationship had to be kept secret. Interspecies romance was still controversial. Many humans thought it was weird, and many aliens thought it was dangerous. Jake and Kira met in empty labs after hours, took long walks in the station's garden domes, and shared quiet dinners in Jake's quarters. Kira taught Jake about Zephyrian culture. Her people valued family connections above everything else. They lived in close groups and made decisions together. The idea of being alone, like many humans preferred, seemed sad and strange to her. Jake shared human customs with Kira. He showed her movies, taught her card games, and introduced her to chocolate, which made her glow patterns dance with delight. She was amazed by human creativity and emotion. For months, everything was perfect. Jake had never been happier. Kira was intelligent, caring, and saw the world in ways that constantly surprised him. She made him want to be a better person. Then came the day that changed everything. Jake was heading to meet Kira for lunch when he ran into the other sister in the hallway. This time, she approached him directly. "We need to talk," she said firmly. "Sure," Jake replied, though something in her tone made him nervous. "What about?" "About the fact that you were supposed to be working with me, not my sister." Jake felt his stomach drop. "What do you mean?" The sister, whose name was Lyra, crossed her arms. "I'm the cultural liaison. I was assigned to work with you from the beginning. There was a mix-up in the assignment protocols. You've been working with Kira this whole time, but she's just the scientific observer." Jake's mind raced. "But Kira never said anything, because she knew," Lyra said, her voice getting colder. "She knew you were supposed to be my partner, But she didn't correct the mistake. The truth hit Jake like a punch to the gut all this time. Kira had known they weren't supposed to be working together. She had known and hadn't told him. There's something else, Lyra continued, studying Jake's face carefully. I can sense strong emotions from you, very strong. What exactly has been going on between you and my sister? Jake didn't know what to say. How could he explain that he had fallen in love with the wrong alien? How could he tell Lyra that her sister was now carrying his child? But Lyra was telepathic. She could probably sense his thoughts anyway. Oh, she said quietly, her expression changing from anger to something more complex. Oh, I see. Jake watched as understanding dawned on her face. Her glow pattern shifted from the sharp whites of anger to deeper blues. That he was learning meant sadness or disappointment. She's pregnant, isn't she? Lyra asked. Jake could only nod. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Jake could hear the hum of the station's life support systems and the distant chatter of other residents going about their daily lives. Everything seemed so normal for everyone else, while his world was falling apart. I need to tell you something, Lyra said finally. In our culture, the elder sister has certain rights when it comes to partnerships with other species, especially with humans. This was supposed to be my assignment, my opportunity. I didn't know, Jake said weakly. I know you didn't, but my sister did. Lyra's patterns flickered with conflicting emotions. And now she's carrying the first human Zephyrian hybrid child. Do you understand what this means? Jake was beginning. 2. This wasn't just about hurt feelings or confused assignments. This was about politics. About the future of relations between their species. About a child that would be unique in the universe. What happens now? He asked. Lyra looked at him for a long time before answering. Now we have a problem that's bigger than all of us. As Jake walked back to his quarters that evening, his mind was spinning with questions. How long had Kira known about the mix-up? Why hadn't she told him? And what did Lyra mean about elder sister rights? Most importantly, how was he going to face Kira now that he knew she had been keeping the secret from him? Their whole relationship had started with a lie, even if she hadn't meant it that way. When he reached his quarters, Kira was waiting for him with dinner and a nervous smile. But Jake could see the worry in her glowing patterns. She knew something had changed. We need to talk, Jake said, echoing Lyra's words from earlier. Kira's glow dimmed. You spoke with my sister. Yes, and now you know. Jake sat down across from her. Looking at this woman he thought he knew completely. Why didn't you tell me? Tears started forming in Kira's eyes, which made her patterns flicker like broken lights. Because I was afraid you would choose her instead of me. The next few days were the worst of Jake's life. After their conversation, Kira had broken down completely. She cried for hours while her glow patterns flickered like a broken neon sign. Jake tried to comfort her, but he was dealing with his own confusion and hurt. How could she have kept such a big secret from him? I was going to tell you, Kira kept saying through her tears. I just needed more time. I was scared you would leave me. Jake wanted to be angry, but seeing her so broken made it impossible. She was carrying his child, and despite everything, he still cared about her deeply. But the trust between them felt damaged, maybe beyond repair. Meanwhile, Lyra was making her feelings very clear to everyone on the station. She filed an official complaint with the Cultural Exchange Committee, claiming that Jake's relationship with her sister violated proper protocols. She demanded that the pregnancy be handled according to Zephyrian law, which Jake was learning had some very complicated rules. Dr. Rodriguez, Jake's supervisor, called him into her office 3 days after the truth came out. She was a tough woman who had been handling alien relations for over a decade, but even she looked stressed. Jake, we have a serious problem, she said, gesturing for him to sit down. The Zephyrian Council has been contacted about your situation. They're not happy. What does that mean? Jake asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. It means this isn't just a personal matter anymore. You've created the first human-alien hybrid pregnancy in history. Both governments are now involved. Jake felt sick. What do they want to do? Dr. Rodriguez pulled up a holographic display showing official documents. The Earth Council sees this as either a breakthrough in interspecies cooperation or a potential security risk. The Zephyrian Council is split between those who think it's a sign of good relations and those who believe proper protocols weren't followed, and Lyra is claiming elder sister rights under traditional Zephyrian law. She says that since you were originally assigned to work with her, any offspring should be considered hers as well. Jake's head was spinning. That's crazy. The baby is Kira's, not according to Zephyrian tradition. Apparently, in their culture, when there's a partnership arrangement, the elder sister has claim to any children that result from it, regardless of which sister actually carries the child. This was getting more complicated by the hour. Jake had thought he was just dealing with relationship drama, but now it sounded like he was in the middle of an interplanetary legal battle. The situation got worse when Jake tried to visit Kira that evening. She had been staying in the medical bay because the pregnancy was causing some unusual symptoms. Human Zephyrian biology didn't mix easily, and the doctors were monitoring her constantly. When Jake walked into her room, he found Lyra there, sitting beside Kira's bed. Both sisters looked up at him with very different expressions. Kira seemed relieved to see him, while Lyra looked like she was guarding her territory. "We were just talking," Lyra said coolly. "About what?" Jake asked. "About the future of our child," Lyra replied. "Our child?" Jake couldn't keep the shock out of his voice. Kira looked embarrassed. "Jake, there's something else you need to understand about our culture. Sister pairs often share important responsibilities, including children." Jake sat down heavily in the nearest chair. "What does that mean exactly?" Lyra leaned forward. "It means that in Zephyrian society, I have not just the right, but the responsibility to help raise any child. That should have been mine in the first place." "But it's not your child," Jake said, feeling frustrated. "Isn't it?" Lyra's glow pattern shifted to a challenging orange. "You were supposed to be my partner. If the assignment had been correct, this would be my child." Jake looked at Kira for support, but she wouldn't meet his eyes. "Kira, you can't seriously agree with this. It's complicated," Kira said softly. "In our culture, family responsibilities are shared. If Lyra wants to claim co-parenting rights, I can't just refuse her." "But I can," Jake said firmly. "I'm the father. Don't I get a say in this?" That's when Lyra dropped the biggest bombshell yet. "Actually, under Zephyrian law, there's a way to resolve this that would satisfy everyone," she said. "The child could legally belong to both of us." "How?" Jake asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. "Through a bonding ceremony. If I bond with Kira during the pregnancy, I become a co-parent to the child. It's an ancient tradition used when families need to unite for the good of a child." Jake stared at her. "And what would that mean for me?" Lyra's pattern shifted to something that looked almost shy. "It would mean you would need to form a connection with both of us. The bonding only works if all three parents are linked." The room fell silent. Jake looked back and forth between the two sisters. Kira was still avoiding his gaze, while Lyra watched him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "You're asking me to be in a relationship with both of you," Jake said slowly. "I'm asking you to consider what's best for the child," Lyra replied. "And for both our species." Jake stood up and started pacing. This was insane. A few months ago, he was a simple scientist doing research. Now he was being asked to enter some kind of three-way arrangement with alien sisters to legitimize his unborn child. "I need time to think," he said. "Time is something we don't have much of," Lyra said. "Kira's pregnancy is progressing faster than normal. The doctors think it's because of the mixed biology. If we're going to do the bonding ceremony, it needs to happen soon." Jake looked at Kira, who finally met his eyes. "What do you want?" he asked her. "I want our child to be safe and accepted by both our peoples," she said quietly. "If that means sharing parenting with my sister, then maybe that's what we need to do. And you?" Jake turned to Lyra. Her pattern shifted to something warmer, more vulnerable. "I want to be honest with you. This isn't just about cultural rights or the child's future. When I first met you, before the mix-up was discovered, I felt something, a connection. I've been watching you with my sister for months, and those feelings haven't gone away. Jake felt like the ground was shifting under his feet. You have feelings. For me, yes, and I know that complicates everything, but I needed you to know the truth. Kira looked surprised. Sister, you never told me this, because you were happy, and I didn't want to hurt you. But now, with everything that's happened, I think honesty is the only way forward. Jake sank back into his chair. So Lyra wasn't just claiming parental rights out of tradition or spite. She actually had feelings for him, and she was asking him to consider a relationship arrangement that would satisfy Zephyrian law, while giving her a chance to be part of his life. The bonding ceremony, Jake said slowly. What exactly would it involve? It creates a telepathic link between all three participants, Lyra explained. We would share emotions, thoughts, and responsibilities. It's intimate, but not necessarily romantic for all parties. The primary goal is creating a stable family unit for the child. But it could become romantic, Jake asked. Lyra's pattern shifted to something hopeful. That would depend on the feelings that develop naturally between us. Jake looked at Kira again. She was watching her sister with a mixture of surprise and something that might have been understanding. Would you be okay with this? He asked Kira. I want what's best for our baby, she said. And honestly, I've been scared about raising a hybrid child alone. Having Lyra's help, her knowledge of our culture, might be good for the child. But what about us? Our relationship? Kira reached for his hand. That wouldn't change. We would still be connected. But we might also be connected to Lyra. Jake felt overwhelmed. A few days ago, his biggest worry was passing his research evaluations. Now he was being asked to make a decision that could affect 3 different lives, and potentially the future of human-alien relations. I need to talk to Dr. Rodriguez about this, he said finally. Of course, Lyra said. But Jake, please consider it seriously. This could solve all our problems. As Jake left the medical bay, his mind was racing. Could he really enter into some kind of 3-way family arrangement? Did he have feelings for Lyra that he had been suppressing? And most importantly, what would be best for the child that was coming into this complicated world? One thing was certain. His simple life as a scientist was officially over. Jake thought things couldn't get any more complicated. He was wrong. 3 days after learning about the bonding ceremony, he woke up to find security officers at his door. Behind them stood Director Chen, the head of the entire cultural exchange station, looking like someone had ruined his entire week. Mr. Martinez, we need to talk. Now, Director Chen said in a tone that made Jake's stomach drop. In the director's office, Jake found himself facing not just Chen, but also Dr. Rodriguez and 2 people he'd never seen before. They wore the dark blue uniforms of Earth government officials, which meant this situation had just gone from bad to worse. Jake, Dr. Rodriguez said. Meet Agent Thompson and Agent Williams from the Department of Interspecies Relations. They've been monitoring your situation. Agent Thompson, a serious-looking woman with gray hair, leaned forward. Mr. Martinez, are you aware that your actions have created an interplanetary incident? I didn't mean to create anything, Jake said, feeling defensive. I just fell in love with someone. Unfortunately, love doesn't exist in a vacuum when it involves 2 different species, Agent Williams said. He was younger, but looked just as stern. The Zephyrian Council has filed an official complaint. They claim that proper protocols weren't followed, and that the pregnancy violates several cultural agreements. Director Chen pulled up a holographic display showing official documents. They're threatening to end the entire cultural exchange program. 20 years of progress could be destroyed because of this situation. Jake felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. What do they want me to do? That's the problem, Agent Thompson said. Different factions want different things. Some want the child raised on Zephyria according to their traditions. Others want you separated from both sisters entirely. And some see this as an opportunity to strengthen relations between our species. What about what I want? Jake asked. What you want matters, Dr. Rodriguez said gently. But it's not the only thing that matters anymore. That afternoon, Jake met with a Zephyrian cultural expert named Dr. Liu, who had been studying their society for 15 years. She explained things that made Jake's head spin. Zephyrian family structures are incredibly complex, Dr. Liu said. What Lyra is proposing with the bonding ceremony isn't unusual in their culture. Sister pairs often share husbands, responsibilities, and children. But I'm human. Jake pointed out. Does that change things? Actually, it makes it more complicated. You would be the first human to undergo this type of bonding. We don't know how it will affect your brain or your emotions. Jake rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. What exactly would happen to me during the ceremony? Based on our research, you would develop a telepathic connection with both sisters. You would share their emotions, memories, and thoughts. Some humans might find that overwhelming. And if I don't do it, Dr. Liu's expression grew serious. Then Lyra might escalate her legal challenge. She could claim that the child belongs to her under ancient Zephyrian law and demand custody. She can do that. Zephyrian law is complicated. But yes, the elder sister has significant rights when it comes to partnerships and children. If she can prove that you were meant to be her partner, originally, she might have a case. Jake left that meeting feeling more confused than ever. He decided to visit Kira, hoping she could help him understand what was really happening. He found her in the garden dome, sitting by the artificial lake and looking miserable. Her pregnancy was starting to show, and her glow patterns seemed dimmer than usual. How are you feeling? Jake asked, sitting beside her. Scared, Kira said honestly. The doctors say the baby is growing faster than expected. They think it might be born months earlier than a normal human pregnancy. Is that dangerous? They don't know. This has never happened before. She turned to look at him. Jake, I need to tell you something about the bonding ceremony that Lyra might not have explained. Jake's heart sank. What now? It's not just about sharing parenting duties. When three people bond like this, they become a family unit in every sense. Their emotions become connected. Their thoughts become linked. It's almost like becoming one person in three bodies. That sounds terrifying. It can be beautiful too, Kira said softly. I've seen it work in families back home. But Jake, once it's done, it can't be undone. You would be connected to both of us for life. Jake stared out at the artificial lake, watching the mechanical fish swim in their programmed patterns. Do you want me to do it? Kira was quiet for a long time. I want our child to be safe and accepted. I want both our peoples to see this pregnancy as a good thing, not a mistake. If the bonding ceremony can make that happen, then yes, I think you should consider it. But what about us? What we have together? What we have would still be there. But it would be different. We would be part of something larger. That evening, Jake was surprised to find Lyra waiting outside his quarters. She looked nervous, which was unusual for her. Can we talk? She asked. Jake let her in, noting how different she seemed from her usual confident self. Her glow patterns were softer, more uncertain. I need to apologize, Lyra said. I've been pushing this bonding ceremony idea, without really considering how overwhelming it must be for you. It is overwhelming, Jake admitted. I want you to know that my feelings for you are real, but they're not the only reason I'm suggesting this. I genuinely believe it would be best for the child. Jake studied her face. Tell me honestly, what do you really want from all this? Lyra's pattern shifted to something vulnerable. I want to be part of a family. I want to help raise a child that could be a bridge between our species. And yes, I want a chance to explore what might develop between us. And if nothing develops between us romantically, then I would still be honored to be part of raising this child. The bonding isn't just about romance, Jake. It's about commitment to each other and to the family we would create. Jake sat down, feeling exhausted. Lyra, can I ask you something? Of course. That first day when we met, before the mix-up was discovered, did you really feel something? Lyra's glow brightened slightly. Yes. There was something about the way you looked at everything with such curiosity and kindness. I had been looking forward to working with you, getting to know you, and then I ended up with your sister instead. And I watched from a distance as you two fell in love. It was painful, but I also saw how happy you made her. That's when I realized my feelings for you were deeper than just professional interests. Jake felt a stab of guilt. I'm sorry. If I had known about the mix-up, you might have chosen differently. I know. That's why Kira didn't tell you. She was afraid of losing you. They sat in silence for a while. Finally, Jake asked the question that had been bothering him most. What happens if I say no to all of this? What if I just want to be with Kira and raise our child as a normal family? Lyra's expression grew sad. Then I would respect your choice. But Jake, I need you to understand something. The political pressure isn't going to go away. Both governments are watching this situation closely. If we can't find a solution that satisfies Zephyrian cultural law, they might decide the child should be raised by neither of us. What do you mean? They might take the child away from all of us and raise it in some kind of neutral environment, a government facility where it can be studied and monitored. Jake felt ice in his veins. They can't do that. They can't if they decide it's necessary for interspecies relations. The child would be the first of its kind. Jake, some people see it as a scientific specimen rather than a baby. The weight of the situation hit Jake fully for the first time. This wasn't just about love or relationships or cultural differences. This was about whether his child would grow up in a loving family or become a government research project. How long do I have to decide? He asked quietly. Not long. Kira's pregnancy is progressing faster than expected. The doctors think the baby might come in just a few weeks instead of months if we're going to do the bonding ceremony. It needs to happen before the birth. After Lyra left, Jake sat alone in his quarters, staring out at the stars through his small window. Somewhere out there was Earth, his home world, where things were simpler. Somewhere else was Zephyria, where his unborn child would be welcomed according to their complex cultural laws. And here he was, caught between two worlds, being asked to make a choice that would determine not just his own future, but the future of the first human-alien hybrid child in history. The next morning, Jake made his decision. He contacted both sisters and asked them to meet him in the conference room. It was time to stop running from this situation and face it head-on. Whatever he chose, there was no going back. Jake walked into the conference room with sweaty palms and a racing heart. Both sisters were already there, sitting on opposite sides of the table like they were preparing for a negotiation. Instead of a family discussion, the tension in the room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I've made my decision, Jake announced, then immediately sat down because his legs felt wobbly. Both Kira and Lyra leaned forward, their glow patterns shifting to anxious yellows and blues. Jake had learned to read their emotions through these light displays, and right now both sisters were terrified of what he might say. I'll do the bonding ceremony, Jake said quietly. Kira's relief was immediate. Her patterns brightened to warm golds, and she reached across the table to squeeze his hand. Lyra's reaction was more complex. Her patterns showed relief mixed with something that looked like guilt. Are you sure? Lyra asked. This isn't a decision you can take back. I'm sure, Jake said, though his voice shook slightly. But I have conditions. Both sisters waited for him to continue. First, I want to understand exactly what's going to happen to me during this ceremony. I want to talk to every expert, read every study, and know all the risks, of course. Lyra agreed immediately. Second, if this doesn't work out, if the bonding creates problems we can't handle, I want a way to protect Kira and the baby, Jake. Kira said softly, the bonding can't be undone. I know, but there have to be ways to manage it if things go wrong. Lyra nodded slowly. There are techniques for managing telepathic connections. We can arrange for training. And third, Jake took a deep breath. I want both of you to promise me that this is really what you want, not what your culture expects, not what the governments want, but what you actually want for yourselves and for the baby. The sisters looked at each other across the table. Some kind of silent communication passed between them, maybe through their telepathic abilities. I want this, Kira said first. I want our child to have the best possible life. And I think having both you and Lyra involved will give them that. I want this too, Lyra said. Not just because of cultural law, but because I believe we could create something beautiful together, a new kind of family." Jake nodded, feeling like he was about to jump off a cliff. "Then let's do it." The next week was a blur of preparation. Dr. Rodriguez arranged for Jake to meet with specialists who had studied Zephyrian bonding ceremonies. They explained that the process would temporarily alter his brain chemistry, creating new neural pathways that would allow telepathic communication. "The human brain is remarkably adaptable," Dr. Foster, a neurobiologist, explained. "We believe you'll be able to handle the changes, but there might be some discomfort at first." "What kind of discomfort?" Jake asked. "Headaches, confusion, emotional overwhelm. You'll be feeling not just your own emotions, but both sisters' emotions as well. It takes time to learn how to separate them." Dr. Patel, a psychologist who specialized in interspecies relationships, was more blunt. "Jake, you need to understand that this will change who you are fundamentally. You'll still be you, but you'll also be connected to two other people in ways that humans aren't designed for." "Will I lose myself?" Jake asked, voicing his biggest fear. "No, but you'll expand yourself. Think of it like learning a new language, except the language is made of emotions and thoughts." The ceremony itself was scheduled for the following Friday. That gave Jake just enough time to panic, calm down, panic again, and finally reach a state of nervous acceptance. On Thursday night, Kira went into early labor. Jake was asleep when his communicator started buzzing frantically. He answered it to find Dr. Martinez, the station's chief medical officer. Looking stressed, "Jake, you need to get to the medical bay immediately. Kira's having complications." Jake threw on clothes and ran through the station corridors, his heart pounding. When he reached the medical bay, he found chaos. Medical staff were rushing around. Monitors were beeping urgently, and through the observation window he could see Kira on a medical bed, her glow patterns flickering erratically. "What's happening?" Jake demanded. Dr. Martinez pulled him aside. "The baby is coming early, much earlier than we expected. But that's not the biggest problem. Kira's body is rejecting the pregnancy." "What does that mean?" "It means her immune system is treating the baby as a foreign object because of its mixed genetics. We're losing both of them." Jake felt the world spinning around him. "There has to be something you can do." "There's one option," Dr. Martinez said carefully, "but it's risky. Tell me, we could perform the bonding ceremony now, while Kira is in labor. The telepathic connection might help stabilize her body's reaction to the pregnancy." Jake stared at him. "You want to do the ceremony while she's giving birth?" "The theory is that if Lyra bonds with Kira during the birth process, she can help Kira's body accept the baby. It's never been tried before, but it might be their only chance." "And what would happen to me?" Dr. Martinez looked uncomfortable. "You would experience everything they experience. The pain, the fear, the physical sensations of giving birth, through the telepathic link." Jake didn't hesitate. "Do it." The next few hours were the most intense of Jake's life. The bonding ceremony, which was supposed to be a calm, meditative process, became something urgent and desperate. Jake found himself lying on a bed next to Kira's, with Lyra on her other side. While Zephyrian specialists performed the ritual, the moment the telepathic connection activated, Jake's world exploded. Suddenly he could feel everything Kira was feeling. The pain of labor, yes, but also her overwhelming love for their unborn child and her terror that something might go wrong. Her emotions crashed over him like waves, threatening to drown his own consciousness. Then Lyra's mind joined the connection, and Jake experienced her feelings too. Her fierce protectiveness, her determination to save both Kira and the baby, and underneath it all, her genuine love for both Jake and her sister. But the most shocking part was what happened next. As the three minds connected, Jake began developing abilities he'd never had before. He could sense the baby's presence, could feel its struggle to survive. More than that, he could somehow help. Through the telepathic link, Jake found himself able to communicate with Kira's immune system, helping. Her body recognized the baby as something to protect rather than attack. It was impossible, but it was happening. The birth itself was a blur of shared pain and shared joy. Jake experienced every contraction, every push, every moment of fear and hope. But he also experienced the incredible moment when their daughter finally entered the world. The baby's first cry echoed through both the delivery room and the telepathic link. Jake felt his heart explode with love so intense it hurt. This tiny, perfect being was part human, part Zephyrian, and completely his. But something unexpected happened during the birth. The telepathic connection, which was supposed to fade after the ceremony, remained strong. Jake could still feel both sisters' emotions, could still sense their thoughts. Is this normal? He asked Dr. Foster, who had been monitoring the whole process. Nothing about this is normal, she replied. But Jake, your brain scans are showing something remarkable. You've developed permanent telepathic abilities. You're the first human to successfully merge consciousness with Zephyrian minds. Jake looked down at his daughter, who was sleeping peacefully in Kira's arms. She was beautiful, with human features but with tiny patterns of light under her skin that flickered like her mother's. What does this mean for us? Jake asked. Lyra, who looked exhausted but happy, answered him. It means we're truly bonded now. The three of us are connected in ways that go beyond what anyone expected. And for the baby, she'll grow up with parents who understand both sides of her heritage, Kira said softly. She'll never have to choose between being human or being Zephyrian. Jake reached out to touch his daughter's tiny hand. The moment he did, he felt something incredible through the telepathic link. The baby's emotions, simple but powerful. Love, contentment, and a sense of belonging. She can feel all of us, Jake realized. She knows we're her family. Dr. Rodriguez appeared in the doorway, smiling. How are our new parents doing? Tired, Jake said. But good, really good. I have some news that might make you feel even better. Both governments have agreed to recognize your family arrangement as legitimate. You've become a symbol of successful interspecies cooperation. Jake looked around at his new family, Kira holding their daughter, Lyra watching both of them with protective love, and himself connected to all of them through bonds deeper than he'd ever imagined. What happens now? He asked. Now, Lyra said, we figure out how to be parents together. Jake smiled, feeling more complete than he ever had in his life. It wasn't the family structure he'd grown up expecting, but it was perfect for them. 6 months later, Jake stood in front of the bathroom mirror, trying to figure out how his life had become so wonderfully complicated. Through the telepathic link, he could feel Kira in the kitchen making breakfast, humming a Zephyrian lullaby. He could sense Lyra in the nursery, gently waking up their daughter Zara from her morning nap. The telepathic abilities had taken some getting used to, at first. Jake couldn't tell the difference between his own emotions and the sisters' feelings. Everything was jumbled together like mixed paint colors. But with practice and help from Zephyrian specialists, he learned to separate the different mental voices. Now the connection felt natural, like having an extra sense. He could feel when Kira was stressed about her research, when Lyra was excited about a new cultural project, or when Zara needed attention even before she started crying. Jake, breakfast is ready. Kira called from the kitchen. Coming, he replied, though she probably already knew through their link. Their living arrangement had surprised everyone, including themselves. They had converted to adjoining quarters into one large family space. Kira and Jake shared one bedroom, while Lyra had her own space, but the boundaries were flexible. Sometimes, all three adults would fall asleep together while watching Zara, creating a pile of parents on the living room couch. The relationship between the sisters had healed completely. In fact, it was stronger than ever. The bonding ceremony had allowed them to share not just parenting duties, but also emotions and memories. They understood each other in ways that went beyond normal sibling relationships. As for Jake's relationship with Lyra, it had developed slowly and naturally. There was no pressure, no expectations. They spent time together, talked about everything, and gradually discovered a deep connection. It wasn't the same as what Jake had with Kira, but it was real and meaningful in its own way. Look who's awake, Lyra said, entering the kitchen with Zara in her arms. The baby was 6 months old now and absolutely beautiful. She had Jake's dark hair and Kira's large eyes, but her skin showed the faint glow patterns of her Zephyrian heritage. When she was happy, tiny lights would dance under her skin like little stars. "Good morning, sweetheart," Jake said, taking Zara from Lyra. The moment he touched her, he felt her joy through the telepathic link. She recognized all three of her parents and loved them equally. "She's getting stronger," Kira observed. Yesterday she moved her toy without touching it. This was another unexpected development. Zara seemed to have inherited enhanced telepathic abilities from both sides of her heritage. She could move small objects with her mind and communicate emotions even clearer than adult Zephyrians. "Dr. Foster wants to study her development," Lyra said. "But I told her we're not turning our daughter into a science experiment." "Good," Jake agreed. "She's a child first, a hybrid second." Dr. Rodriguez had retired as Jake's supervisor but remained a close family friend. She often visited to check on their progress and had become like a grandmother to Zara, actually. Kira said, "We got some interesting news yesterday. Dr. Rodriguez called while you were out." "What kind of news?" "There are 3 other human-alien couples expecting babies now, all different species combinations. Our family has inspired other people to take the chance on interspecies relationships." Jake felt a warm glow of pride, though he wasn't sure if it was his emotion or something he was picking up from the sisters. "That's amazing. There's more," Lyra added with a smile. "The Earth Centauri Cultural Exchange Program wants us to be official ambassadors. They want our family to represent the success of interspecies cooperation." "What would that involve?" "Traveling to different stations, meeting with other mixed couples, helping establish support programs for hybrid children." Jake looked down at Zara, who was playing with the light patterns on her hands. "What do you two think?" "I think it could be good for Zara," Kira said. "She would grow up seeing that she's not alone, that there are other children like her, and it would give us a chance to help other families avoid some of the problems we faced." Lyra added. Jake thought about their journey from that first confused meeting to where they were now. It hadn't been easy, but it had been worth every difficult moment. "Let's do it," he decided. That afternoon, they received their first assignment. A human Altarian couple on Station Beta 7 was having problems similar to what Jake and the sisters had experienced. The husband had accidentally bonded with the wrong sister, and now both sisters were claiming parental rights to their expected child. "Sounds familiar," Jake said with a laugh. "At least we know how to help them," Lyra replied. They spent the evening planning their first ambassadorial mission. Zara sat in her high chair, babbling in what sounded like a mixture of English and Zephyrian, occasionally making her toys glow with her developing powers. "I have something to tell you both," Jake said during dinner. Both sisters looked at him with curiosity, their glow patterns shifting to interested blues and greens. "I've been thinking about what we've built here. This family, this relationship, this life we're creating together." And Kira prompted, "And I realized that 6 months ago. I thought I was choosing between 2 options, be with Kira or be with Lyra, stay human or adapt to alien culture. But what we actually created is something completely new. A third option," Lyra said, understanding immediately. "Exactly. We didn't just solve our problems by compromising. We created something better than what any of us could have had alone." Kira reached across the table to take his hand. "I never thought I could be this happy." "Neither did I," Lyra agreed, covering their joined hands with her own. Through the telepathic link, Jake felt their combined emotions: love, contentment, hope, and excitement for the future. But underneath it all was something even more powerful: the absolute certainty that they belonged together. Zara chose that moment to clap her hands and giggle, making all the lights in the room flicker in response to her joy. The 3 adults laughed, and Jake felt a surge of pure happiness. 2 years later, Jake stood on the stage of the Interspecies Unity Conference, holding 2-year-old Zara while Kira and Lyra flanked him on either side. They were giving the keynote address about successful interspecies families. The audience was filled with beings from dozens of different species, many of them couples who had found love across species lines. In the front row, Jake could see Dr. Rodriguez beaming with pride, along with several other families they had helped during their ambassadorial work. When I first met Kira and Lyra, Jake began, I thought I had to choose between them. I thought love was about finding one perfect person and building a life with just that person. Zara babbled something in her mixed language and reached for the microphone, making the audience chuckle. But my daughter is teaching me every day that love doesn't have to fit into the shapes we expect, Jake continued. She loves all three of her parents equally and completely. She doesn't see our family as strange or complicated. To her, it's just normal. As we've traveled and met other interspecies families, Kira added, we've learned that there are as many ways to build a family as there are species in the galaxy. The key isn't finding the perfect traditional structure, Lyra concluded. It's finding the people who make you complete and building something beautiful together. As they finished their speech, the audience erupted in applause. Jake looked out at all those faces, representing dozens of different species, all united in their belief that love could bridge any gap through the telepathic link. He felt Kira and Lyra's pride and love, and from Zara, sitting contentedly in his arms, he felt simple happiness and the absolute security of a child who knows she is loved by everyone who matters. 6 months ago, Jake had been a simple scientist who thought he understood how life worked. Now he was part of something larger, something that was helping to reshape how the galaxy thought about love, family, and what it meant to belong to each other. As they walked off stage together, Zara pointed at the stars visible through the conference center's transparent dome and said her first clear sentence. Home is wherever we're all together. Jake couldn't have said it better himself.